The blues means many things. It is first one of the folk musics of African Americans. The blues is also a musical form with a definite structure. And to begin, I'll talk about this blues musical structure. A typical blues verse has 12 bars, 3 lines of 4 bars each. Usually the second line is a repeat of the first. In other words, an A-A-B structure. So a typical blues lyric would be, there's a cold wind howling, howling in my heart. There's a cold wind howling, howling in my heart. For the best of friends someday must part. The blues follows a definite chord progression over the 12 bars. To keep terms simple, I'm going to call these chords home, far, and near. So the typical progression is home, far, home, near, home. Home. Far. Home. Near. Home. This simple structure had a huge influence on popular music, for the simplicity allows enormous variety and complexity within it. It is very like the 14-line sonnet, another simple structure that has been the foundation of some of the greatest poetry in Europe over the last 500 years. I'm going to play a few verses of a tune to give you a sense of the variety within this blues structure. This tune was composed by one of the great modern jazz pianists, Thelonious Monk. It's called Blue Monk. I'll tell you when each new verse starts as I play. Almost all the rest of the tunes today will follow this same structure. Next verse. Next verse. The blues developed from the encounter between the music of African and European cultures during the period of slavery and afterwards in the USA. And so it is a blend of African and European elements. The experience of capture in West Africa, transportation to America, and then being sold into slavery was unimaginably harsh and cruel. The culture of the original African slaves, their languages, their religions, their tribal identities, never mind their family units, were all destroyed, and this was intentional. The plantation owners didn't want their slaves speaking strange languages or forming family or tribal allegiances that were independent of the plantations. They were horrified at the idea of their slaves playing their native rhythmic music on drums, because they feared that the drums could be used to send secret messages between plantations and to foment rebellion. So this drum music in particular was ruthlessly suppressed. But slavery meant long, tedious, hard work, usually in large groups, and music can be useful to coordinate the work of large groups, so the work songs of the slaves were encouraged. And over many decades, the English language work songs that they were allowed to sing were infused with the vestiges of the slaves' African music. Among the African elements in the work songs were great rhythmic complexity and a closer link between speech and song. The structure of the work song was usually call and response. The leader sang the call, and the rest of the group sang the response. For example, "You know my papa went a-hunting for grizzly bear. It was early one morning, grizzly bear. I heard a shooting and a calling, grizzly bear." The story could go on for a long time, and it could be taken up by different leaders. It was basically a call of 2 bars of music and a response of 2 bars by the group. This call and response structure soon transferred to spirituals, where the preacher took the call and the congregation sang the response. "Swing low, sweet chariot," is the call. "Coming for to carry me home," is the repeated response. After the Civil War in 1865, the slave plantations were broken up. Instead of a communal life, the emancipated slaves now worked as solitary sharecroppers, paying a share of their crop as rent for their small farms. And their music evolved to reflect this isolated condition, and the musical result was the blues. At first it was a solitary rather than a group music, and almost all of the 2,000 early rural blues were solo recordings of singers accompanying themselves on guitar. But the call and response structure of the work songs survived in this solitary music, with 2 bars on every line to the voice and 2 bars to the guitar. It was not so much guitar accompaniment as equal status for each instrument, the voice being the call and the guitar being the response, as the blues musician played a lonely dialogue between himself and his instrument. I'm going to play a blues song called "Going Down Slow." It is a singer's response to the diagnosis of terminal disease, a subject unimaginable in pop songs. Blues lyrics tend to favor direct speech, The singer is talking to you personally rather than telling a formal story. Listen to the close connection between the rhythms of the naturally spoken words and how the melody follows these rhythms. There is no melodic ornamentation, just one note per syllable of the words. The musical rhythms are the rhythms of natural speech.
Well, I've had my fun, I won't get well no more. Well, I've had my fun, I won't get well no more. 'Cause I've been to the doctor, he says I'm going down slow. I'm gonna write my love a letter, tell her the state I'm in. I'm gonna write my love a letter, tell her the state I'm in. 'Cause I've been to the doctor, and now I'm sorry for my sins. I love you, baby, God knows I do. Well, I love you, pretty baby, God knows I do. But I've been to the doctor, and now I'm going down slow.
There were three distinctive guitar styles in the early blues. That style is often called the Texas style. It featured a single string melodic response on the guitar. It had a huge influence on jazz, especially jazz guitar, and later on rock music. Most of the flamboyant lead guitarists in rock music today are following on from this Texas style. Another blues guitar style was the Piedmont blues from the southeast coast of the USA. This style featured an alternating pattern with the thumb on the bass strings, while the fingers played a melody on the treble strings. It was greatly influenced by ragtime, as the thumb replicated the piano player's left-handed work, while the fingers replicated his right hand. The Piedmont style also had a huge influence, this time on finger-picking folk guitarists. And many of them, all over the world, without knowing it, are playing Piedmont licks in their modern music. The next song is in the Piedmont style. It's called Frankie and Albert. It's an earlier version of the famous Frankie and Johnny song. It is a very early blues song with the verse structure like a European ballad telling a story. with a refrain at the end of each verse. So it doesn't have the typical 3-line lyric of the blues. But the musical structure of the song is a 12-bar blues with the typical home, far, home, near, home chord progression. And although it doesn't imply call and response, the song is defined by the intricate guitar part rather than the sparse melody that is sung. This is the version of Frankie and Albert by the great Mississippi John Hurt, a sharecropper who obviously didn't come from the Piedmont region. Although the different styles were given regional names by later scholars, there was a lot of crossover within the regions.
Frankie and Albert were lovers, as everybody knows. Frankie paid out $100 for every suit of Albert's clothes. She loved that man, but he done her wrong. Frankie went down to the corner saloon, see what she could see. Looked through the window, saw Albert in Alice's arms. She loved that man, but he done her wrong. First time she shot at me staggered, next time she shot at me fell. Last time she shot him, Lord, there was a new man's face in hell. She shot that man, but he done her wrong. It wasn't murder in the first degree, it wasn't murder in the third. Frankie simply dropped a man like a hunter drops a bird. She shot that man, but he done her wrong. This story's got no moral, this story's got no end. This story only shows there ain't no good in some men. They'll do you wrong just as sure as you were born.
The third major style was the Delta blues. The Delta region ran from Vicksburg to Memphis, between the Mississippi River and its tributary, the Yazoo. This was a vast, flat land that stretched endlessly beyond the horizon in every direction, and the poverty of its sharecroppers was extreme. But the main route out of the Delta was straight up north to Chicago. And because so many Delta blues musicians migrated to Chicago, this style was the dominant influence in the post-war Chicago blues, and subsequently on the whole of rock music. The music from the Delta had the most pronounced African influences, with the emphasis on rhythm and basic sound rather than on melody. In a word, playing drum music on stringed instruments. The vocal melodies were extremely sparse, using a simple 5-note rather than the European 8-note or do, re, mi scale. These 5-note melodies were given further expression with blue notes. These were slightly flattened notes and often sliding up to the natural note that added emotional intensity to the songs. It is difficult to get these notes on fixed pitch instruments, That is why you have blues guitarists bending their strings so often. They are trying to achieve a quarter note that lies between the frets. Delta blues musicians often used a slide technique with a piece of metal or glass to achieve these notes. This is one of the great songs from the Delta blues called Going to Brownsville. It is again a straight 12-bar blues with a call and response structure, a sparse, raw, timbered vocal, a percussive guitar style, and a slide technique to emphasize the blue notes.
Well, I'm going to Brownsville, take that right hand road. Well, I'm going to Brownsville, take that right hand road. And I won't stop my walking till I reach my baby's door. Well, the woman I'm loving, she's got long curly hair. Well, the woman I'm loving, she's got long curly hair. But Mama and Papa sure won't allow me there. Well, I went to the mountain, left as far as I could see. Well, I went to the mountain, left as far as I could see. And the blues got my woman, and these lonesome blues got me.
Many of the original African languages were tone languages. The meaning of the words depended on the pitch in which they were said. This was not true of the English language, of course, but the blues singers included this tone language element to achieve a much greater expressiveness. This highly expressive vocal style often transferred to other instruments. Blues guitarists often imitated the sound of the singer's voice on their guitars. Come On Into My Kitchen is one of Robert Johnson's great blues songs, using a slide technique. And here, as well as vocalized guitar phrasing, he uses the slide to evoke the whistle and howling of the wind during the instrumental solo section.
You better come in my kitchen, 'cause it's going to be raining and outdoors. That woman I love stole from my best friend. Some joker got lucky, stole her back again. You'd better come in my kitchen, 'cause it's going to be raining outdoors. I know she's gone, I know she won't come back. I stole the last nickel from a ration sack. You'd better come in my kitchen, 'cause it's going to be raining outdoors. The winter time is coming, it's got to be so. You can't let the winter be just dry long so. You'd better come in my kitchen, 'cause it's going to be raining outdoors.
Perhaps the most vocalized instrument in blues music is the harmonica, or blues harp. And I'd like to introduce Don Baker, one of Ireland's greatest blues musicians. Don has won fame and regard all over the world as an actor, composer, singer, and guitarist, but especially as a great exponent of the blues harp. He is going to play Don's Train, and regarding vocalization of the instrument, the title speaks for itself.
This train is bound for glory, this train. This train is bound for glory, this train. This train is bound for glory. Don't ride nothing but the righteous and the holy, this train. Bound for glory, this train.
has been the single most important influence on rock music since the 1950s. It is because of the blues that the guitar is now the most important instrument in popular music. But the blues has always been one of the foundations of jazz. About a quarter of all Duke Ellington's compositions were in the blues structure, and about a quarter of the recordings of the father of modern jazz, Charlie Parker, were blues tunes. This ratio of blues material in the jazz repertoire is far from unusual. Jazz interpretations of the blues use the same 12-bar structure, but in looser, more improvised arrangements and with more complex harmonies and chords. Usually, there were no lyrics, just a melody. But if there were lyrics, the repeated second line of the verse often did not feature. This is a song called Centerpiece, composed by the great trumpeter Harry Edison, who played in the Count Basie Orchestra and with Frank Sinatra in the 1950s.
The more I see you, pretty baby, the more I feel our love increase. I'm building all my dreams around you, 'cause you my baby, yeah. And I'm nothing's any good without you, 'cause you my centerpiece. I buy a house and a garden somewhere along a country road of peace, a little cottage on the outskirts where we can really find release. But nothing's any good without you, 'cause baby, you my centerpiece. Somewhere, a little cottage on the outskirts where we can really find release. But nothing's any good without you, 'cause baby, you my centerpiece, yeah.
As the sharecroppers migrated to the industrial cities of the north, the blues music evolved into a more commercial performance music played by groups rather than individuals. After World War II, the blues became electrified. It was essentially the rural acoustic music of the Delta plugged in. And Don is going to play an old Delta blues tune called Walking Blues, but this time plugged in on the electric guitar. Here he's using the old Delta techniques with the bottleneck, but as you'll hear, it has a very different sound plugged in.
this morning, I feel around on my shoes. Don't you know about that, babe? I got them all walking blues. Yeah, this morning, I feel around for my shoes. You know about that, babe? I had them, you know, walking blues. Woke up this morning, had to go around the blinds. I've been mistreated, I don't mind dying. Yeah, this morning, had to go around the blinds. I've been mistreated, oh Lord, I don't mind dying. Some people tell me the walking blues ain't bad. Well, that's the worst old feeling I've ever had. Some people tell me, yeah, the walking blues ain't bad. That's the worst old feeling, oh Lord, I've ever had.
The greatest of the Delta blues musicians was Robert Johnson. He was virtually unknown outside the Delta during his lifetime. He recorded just 29 songs, and he died in circumstances unknown at the age of 27 in 1938. But despite such obscurity, the post-war Chicago blues, through the influence of Elmore James and Muddy Waters, was essentially the acoustic music of Robert Johnson plugged in. His influence on rock music has been immense. Rolling Stone magazine voted him one of the 5 greatest guitarists of the century, and most of his songs have been covered by the greatest rock performers. When Barack Obama sang Sweet Home Chicago in the White House in 2012, he was singing a Robert Johnson song. To highlight just one small element of Robert Johnson's influence, Don and I are going to finish by playing his song, When You Got a Good Friend. The popular boogie-woogie piano style had a distinctive left-hand riff that again is an African rhythmic element. Robert Johnson was the first guitarist to transfer this percussive riff to the guitar. It is probably the most famous riff in popular music, and the rest was history, hysteria, and rock and roll.
When you got a good woman who'll hug and treat you right. When you got a good gal who will hug and treat you right. Give her all you loving, hug and treat her right. If I mistreat you, baby, I don't understand the reason why. If I mistreat you, pretty baby, I don't understand the reason why. When I think about it, hang my head and cry. If I apologize, would you sympathize with me? If I apologize, baby, would you sympathize with me? I love you, pretty baby. You're as sweet as you can be. When you got a good gal who'll hug and treat you right. When you got a good gal who'll hug and treat you right. Give her all you loving, hug and treat her right.
You happy with that?
I'm happy with that.